Okay, hello. I'm Alejandro from UQ. I'm a PhD student and also doing a research fellow under the supervision of Tom Baldock. Here we are developing an app to identify vulnerable areas in the Great Barrier Reef where we can do interventions or restoration projects. I was going to talk about the GBR, but I think you are more familiar than what I could be, at least on your background. Mine is on engineering. So we know about the threats. We're facing climate change, and that's one of the reasons why we're developing this app. So we need a decision tool to identify these kind of areas where we can do something. But we also need these kind of tools to put it in public, so any user, no matter the skills they have, they can use it. But also it could be useful for decision makers or even for other tools like the ones that they are developing at the Marine Science Lab with Peter and you. I forgot your name, sorry. But anyway, so we're basically working with 3 variables. The first one is bathymetry. So we have the information of the elevation or the depth in the Great Barrier Reef, and that's allocated in more than 300 patches. Basically, what we have here is at least one reef. It could be more, but in average, I guess we have like 10 reefs in each patch, and those are represented in the blue boxes. So that's the first variable we need. The second variable that we need to know these vulnerable areas are the wave height and the wave period. And this data comes from numerical modeling from Dave Callaghan, also at UQ. So he ran a model through all the Great Barrier Reef to get the wave climate along the system. But it's a lot of information because each pixel of the bathymetry is 25 meters by 25 meters. And inside there, we have the joint probability of wave height and wave period. So that's quite a lot. And that's why another reason why to have a decision tool, because that will make things easier for final users. So basically what we have here in colors, if we have warmer colors, that's the most probable scenario that we can have. So we can have combinations of wave height and wave period, and we will have a specific probability for that event. And why do we need that? So we can characterize the bottom wave velocities by using the wave height. In this case, is h. And the wave period is represented through the omega, for the wave frequency. I forgot the name, sorry. And we also have included the wave depth. The depth as h. So these 3 variables are necessary to calculate the velocity using wave linear theory. And it has shown that this approximation is useful for coral reef environments. So as an example, I'm showing you this. So we have this wave climate or typical conditions as TP typical and HC typical. So we can calculate the velocity from this. But also we can calculate the maximum conditions, and we can locate that by taking the maximum value of the wave height we can get from this distribution. Another thing that we need for our model or this platform that we are developing is the probability of failure for corals. So this work has done by PhD students. So what they did, they took samples in the field. So they removed the corals. They measured the force that he needs to be applied to be broken. And they did the same in the lab. So at the end, what has been done is a structural model in which they did thousands of simulations with different velocities. So this force can be translated into velocity. So they force this structure or coral structures. And what we got, or the PhD student got, is this plot on the left side of probability depending on the wave velocity. So we have in the x-axis the velocity, and on the y-axis how probable it could be to break under certain flow velocities. This model also was used with different bioerosion rates. So what we did here is choose 3 locations in which we can have bioerosion in the coral structure. And for these 3 scenarios, we have certain biodegradation values. So this is in progress, but we expect to include this bioerosion in our tool soon. And finally, we also have the probability of robot mobilization, which was done by Tanya Kenyon. Here, this project was done through field and laboratory experiments, and it was done with different type of corals, robots. So in this part, we're talking about robots, so we're interested in knowing how robots move through the coral reef. So for this, Tanya Kenyon did some laboratory and field experiments with branched corals, which are in the left side, and not branched corals, which are on the right side, for different sizes, which are represented in different colors in this plot, for different for different floors, kind of floors. So one of the floors had robots in the bottom, another one just with sand. And these are the final colors we got, and those were included in the model. So what we have now is an interface that could be useful for anyone. So in the left side, we have the input parameters we want to know or to include in the model. So we can calculate the probabilities of breakup and motion of robots by choosing first the location of the reef. So we can input that in the left side, or we can click into the map and extract the coordinates with the button that is like in the middle of the screen. We can choose the parameters we want to choose, which will include wave height, typical, and we expect to add more scenarios like return periods. And after that, we have in the input panel, solid fraction panel. I'm not sure if it's visible for you. It's shown in the red circle. So in that part, we can choose the parameter for the breaking model, or for the breaking model, in which we can choose the location of the bioerosion, the rate of bioerosion, but also we can choose the size of the colony that we want to study on. And then we have the robot mobilization panel. And here we can choose, following what Tanya did, we can choose the size, what kind of motion we want to follow. So we have 3 options: rocking, transport, and flipping. What kind of robot we want to study, which is branch and unbranch, and in which kind of substrate the robot could be located. And the right side is where we can visualize all the great barrier, but also the results. For example, we have, in this case, we have the bathymetric, which is data that is already in the system. And this is one of the results. So this is the distribution of the wave height according to the scenario we chose. We also calculate the velocities in the bottom. So that's done through the wave climate and the bathymetry. And this is the breaking probability result. It's mostly in blue because, I mean, it depends on the wave conditions, and there's where we can find like the vulnerable areas will be like really small areas. And we have the result for mobility probability. So we are also working on getting the outputs in different formats. At this moment, we can do it through TIFF file, TIFF file, but also as image or .fig, which is for MATLAB. So we are also working in a user manual that works with HTML format. And what we want to improve in the future is to migrate from the language we're using, because we're working with MATLAB, and apparently it's really hard to work with geospatial information there. So we expect to move maybe to Java or Python, which will be also useful for anyone because it's a free, an open source system or language. We are also expecting to add a numerical model, which is XBridge, and it's been applied to coral reef environments. And yeah, we want to include this model into the system. And yeah, that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Alejandro. Any questions for Alejandro? I just have a quick one. Have you considered changing by erosion over time in your model?
No, we haven't. So we're working with all the data we have from previous numerical information. So if that's the case, we might need to be updating all the web climate information. And, sure. But yeah, we haven't done this to be dynamic, like changing on time, okay. But maybe it could be a future improvement.
Okay, thank you.